I think these regular customers are stalking me.
I'm a 19-year-old girl, and I work as a waitress at a small local restaurant in the town I'm currently at university studying in. The job is supposed to help me gain some work ethic and, more importantly, money while I'm away from home. Anyone who's worked in the service industry knows how it can be. Much longer hours than you're contracted, being called in at the last minute, awful customers, and even worse managers. It wasn't always bad, but it certainly wasn't often good. I hated the job itself, but without it I could barely afford to eat, let alone go out and socialize. The people I worked with made it bearable. Worries K became my social life. I missed home a lot. I grew up in a beautiful home with a wonderful family. My mom and dad were so perfect they were like catalog parents. They both worked in medicine. My dad is a doctor, and my mom is a surgeon. They were both fit, healthy, and loving. My little sister was 16 and looked different to me. She had olive skin and darker hair that flowed down her back, while my unruly blonde curls stopped at my shoulders. People were often surprised we were sisters, but once we interacted you could tell we were related. No one had ever seen sisters so close. We were friends. Most siblings I knew fought constantly, but not me and my sister. We were blessed with a great relationship. I guess all the privilege I'd grown up with had hit me when I arrived at uni. I made friends with so many people from diverse backgrounds and realized just how blind to the world I was. I'd sailed there, while others had almost worked themselves to death just to get a chance. Seeing how easy I had it in comparison made me feel like an entitled brat. I got the waiting job to try and learn to function on my own. I even called my parents and told them to stop sending me money. I was determined to be independent. My friend Kessie worked there, and it was nice to work with a friend. We could rant about rough shifts and shitty customers together. Me and Kessie mostly worked the night shift. We would start at 5 p.m., and the restaurant closed at around 11 p.m., depending on how many customers decided to stick around after the official 10:30 close. We would stay to mop the floors and clean down the seating area. We got tons of abuse on the night shift. People tend to get more drunk during the dinner rush and love to take it out on their waitress. Don't get me wrong, not all customers are assholes, but the assholes stand out. It was worth it for the generous drunk tips, though. Kessie got it worse than me, due to her Tanzanian heritage. She had one regular customer that made the same awful slave joke as she delivered his food every time. The manager never did a damn thing and the owners were never around. The guy left a huge tip but was a blazing racist who made her cringe every time she saw him in her section. We'd gotten used to it. After I had a guy ask if my private parts were on the menu in front of his children, I didn't think it would be possible to feel too uncomfortable with a customer again. I was desensitized. Then around 4 to 5 months ago that changed. A man was seated in my section. He was dining alone, and I always try to make some effort to make single diners feel special. They're often sweet and seem to never really cause a fuss. I walked up to his table ready to take his drinks order. I could feel him staring at me all the way across the small restaurant as I approached his table. He was middle-aged, probably around the same age as my parents. He looked disheveled with his hair a little tufty and unkempt. He wore a pair of glasses that were slightly wonky and had stains on his tattered jacket. And he didn't once break his stare. His eyes were on me the entire time. The closer I got, the more uncomfortable it made me feel. He didn't look happy, yet at the same time he did. He just kept staring, with this strange expression on his face. He looked at me like I was some sort of deity in the flesh. I asked him what he would like, still remaining friendly and professional, but decided not to interact too heavily. Something about this guy gave me the creeps. He ordered a bottle of dry white wine, and I knew I was in this for the long haul. I delivered his bottle and poured out the first glass as he continued to stare at me with the same strange expression. In normal circumstances in the real world, I would have asked what his problem was, but this was work. He was relatively quiet, and I needed a good tip to pay for a festival ticket. I took his starter order and walked away to serve my other tables. Every customer I interacted with blended into one. The only thing I really noticed all night was that this guy was staring at me the entire time. As I delivered his food, he ate. I waited other tables and walked the floor doing my job. I found myself venturing into the kitchen to escape his gaze. The chefs laughed at me. They said that I just found myself a new boyfriend. The more freaked out I got, the funnier they found it. But something about it made me shudder. I didn't find it funny at all. He stayed for an hour and a half, got 3 courses, and drank 2 bottles of wine. He left a decent tip. Even as he left, he watched me. He had to practically walk backwards to avoid breaking eye contact. After closing, all I could think about was the man. It had been busy all night, and I hadn't caught Kessie until the end. She hadn't noticed him. Damn, I was hoping someone else had. To stop me feeling so stupid over the next week, I didn't think much of it. Through uni work, other customers, and various events through the week, the guy who stared at me became just another weird customer I'd had. A story to be told during the after-close cigarette at work. That was until exactly a week later when the man was yet again sat in my section. This time he wasn't alone. He'd brought a woman with him. She had curly hair that was unkempt just like his, huge bags under her eyes, and a tired expression. I noticed them before they noticed me. I was glad that he wasn't alone this time. I initially thought that the woman being there might preoccupy him and stop him staring. I was wrong. As I bounded up to their table after a deep breath, my heart sunk. The woman caught sight of me and looked at me in shock and horror. She pulled the same strange expression that the man had pulled the first time and was pulling again. They stared at me in perfect unison. I took their drinks orders and rushed off, hearing inaudible whispering as I walked away. Something was not right. Cassie was working this time, and had the section closest to mine this time. I caught her in the kitchen and told her that he was back and that the lady was doing the same thing. Sure enough, the behavior continued. As I took their food orders after delivering drinks, the woman tried to speak to me. "Chloe," she began softly, but the man grabbed her knee, not breaking eye contact with me. I wondered how she knew my name, but of course during my initial scripted waitress greeting, I tell them my name. Not many customers remember it though, and the restaurant was fairly high-end, so we don't wear name badges. They were really paying attention. It made me edgy. The man proceeded to interrupt her with his order, ordering for her as well. I never like when people order for their partner. It seems a little archaic. I didn't stick around, but the whispers seemed more pointed this time. They stayed for 2 hours this time. The man continued to stare at me as he had the week before, and the woman zigzagged between staring at me in the same fashion and presumably powdering her nose in the ladies' room. She came back more twitchy each time, and it would have accounted for the bags under her eyes. Again, they left a generous tip, but it did nothing to subside the feeling of deep unease. At close, Cassie told me she'd noticed it too. She said it had been creepy the way they'd looked at me. It may sound like a huge overreaction, but neither of them took eyes off me unless I removed myself from their vision. It was nice to know someone had seen it. They returned the next week, and the next, and the one after that. I tried to swap shifts, but I couldn't do it around my uni work, and I tried to swap sections. One of the nights, Cassie served their table for me, and even as they told her their drinks orders, they watched me. It was like no one else in the room was present to them. I'd complained to the manager, but he just laughed it off. He couldn't speak to customers about simply looking at one of his staff members, as he put it. After a few weeks, the guy started making more lone visits at random times of the week. He would come for drinks and something small to eat. If I wasn't on shift, he wouldn't stay long. The manager would even joke to me when I came to work that my boyfriend had been in and run home because I wasn't there. The chefs found it hilarious. No one realized how much it frightened me. They started showing up everywhere, just shopping in the same stores as me, walking past me in the street, taking the same buses I did to different stops each time. I only ever saw them for a flash, or it was too crowded for me to stop them and ask them why they were following me. One night recently, I could have sworn I saw the woman staring into my window from across the road on campus. As I picked up my phone to call the police and looked up, she was gone. I sobbed that night, conflicted between genuine terror and the concern that I was reading so deeply into nothing. After seeing the woman out of the window, I started carrying a rape alarm. I just wanted something loud enough in case I was ever grabbed. This couple seemed so fixated on me that I felt vulnerable all the time. I didn't know whether to call the police or not. I had no real evidence and they hadn't done anything wrong. Can someone be arrested for making you uncomfortable? Every week I dreaded that shift, the one I knew they'd be there for. My rape alarm didn't make me feel much safer. The tip was no longer worth it. I was starting to lose my sanity over this. This weekend just gone, I was dreading it more than ever. I had seen them a grand total of 12 times throughout the week, and who knows how many times they were watching without me knowing. That same sad but happy expression that they pull every time. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the lack of sleep. Maybe it was the sleeping pills I'd been taking to help with it. More than likely, it was the fact that Cassie was away for the weekend, and I didn't have a lift home that night. Whatever it was, something convinced me to pack a knife in my purse that night. Despite what happened, I'm still glad I did. As expected, the couple came for their weekly booking. I didn't serve them. The best I could get out of the manager was to at least serve them himself so that I didn't have to. They stared at me the entire time, as they always do. The lady kept pulling something out of her pocket and looking at it under the table. The man occasionally broke his gaze to look at whatever she had in her hands and then back at me. It seemed to surprise him every time. Their food came and went and they left, the woman rustling something in her pocket as they walked out the building. They walked straight past me, and I only caught 4 words from the man to the woman as they left. Not yet, but tonight. It sent shivers down my spine. There was no one here that could take me home. All the other closers stayed much later than I did for kitchen and cashing up, and I knew when I left I was on my own. I knew they were going to do something to me. I was so glad I'd packed that knife. Even if this whole situation was making me feel paranoid, at least I had some protection. I finished my clothes and the time rolled around to leave. I could feel my hands shaking and my palms sweating as I started to make my way down the road towards the bus stop. Every shadow made me twitch. It was quiet out. The shops were all closed and there weren't many people around, just the occasional car going past. I could feel footsteps behind me, and I knew they were following. I kept a hand inside my bag, ready to grab hold of the knife if I needed. When I sat down at the bus stop, I finally began to see the outlines of 2 figures approaching me. I wasn't going to give them any time to harm me. I ran as fast as I could. They kept up well, considering their ages and respectively tired faces. I thought they were going to catch me until I darted across the road. The last thing I heard was the lady scream the name Harley. Then there was a large bang and the whole sound around me went numb. That doesn't make much sense, but I don't know how else to explain it. Everything had this dull, muffled feeling to it, like the world was going in slow motion. I turned around to see the mangled bodies of my stalkers laid out in front of the bus that had abruptly broken after hitting them. Bones were jutting out of bloodied rips in their flesh. The expression hadn't left their eyes though, and somehow it still looked like they were staring at me. I ran towards the wreckage, ran to the couple to check for pulses as the horrified bus driver got out of his vehicle. As I checked the woman over, I felt a crunching in her pocket and quickly grabbed the contents, 2 folded up, wrinkled bits of paper, and without looking at them, shoved them in my bag while I continued to give futile CPR. The couple were dead. I gave my statement to the police, told the paramedics what had happened, and tried to explain to the bus driver that I was being followed and it hadn't been his fault. They literally ran out in front of him. It seemed like hours before they finally let me go home. As I collapsed into my bed, I remembered the pieces of paper that I'd stuffed in my bag and got them out. I unfolded and smoothed them out and gasped at the contents. One was an article from 20 years ago in a national newspaper. The headline read, "We named her Harley," the story of the couple whose baby was stolen from the womb. The photo showed the couple holding baby girl's clothes and looking devastated. The article explained that the woman had spent a lot of time recovering in hospital from the forced C-section at 8 months. She was only alive due to the evident surgical knowledge of the unknown attackers who had broken into their home and performed it while her husband worked away. The second piece of paper confirmed my worst fears. It was a printed photograph of what appeared to be the lady's mother, with unruly blonde curls to her shoulders and the face a mirror image of mine. This morning, the newspapers reported the identities of the victims and mentioned their past tragedies. My parents keep calling to see how I'm doing after the incident. I thought I was scared of the couple, but that was nothing compared to
How terrified I am now every time that phone rings.